Well, we finally got an episode of Strange New Worlds that actually was Star Trek. The problem it is also ruins Star Trek at the same time. This is a continuity killer for anybody who is watching this. Now, it's pretty interesting. In my household, I am I'll call it what it is. I'm a Star Trek nerd, so I know all the continuity. I know all the references. My wife does not know any of the references, so she watches it from a perspective of just seeing it, and even from her perspective of Strange New Worlds, which is supposed to be for a modern audience who doesn't know Star Trek, over this season, she's seen it as boring, not interesting, not as good. She's watching through Deep Space Nine right now, just understands that it's not as good as what it was, and she can't put her finger on why. For me, it's like I have a whole laundry list of why this is not working whatsoever. But we'll get into both of our opinions on this in just a moment for Season 3, Episode 9, Terrarium. And this was an interesting one. Ortega, the pilot gal, who has the most obnoxious haircut ever in Star Trek, except for maybe Christopher Pike. I don't know which. I got a picture of both of them right here. I don't know which one's worse. Leave a comment down below. Do you like the weird shaved head woman, or the weird 50, 60-year-old man acting like he's got the flowing hair of a teenager? Which one's worse? I'd love to hear from you on that. I don't know. It depends on my mood for me. But this one features her going out on a mission. She's piloting a one-person shuttlecraft to investigate something. Ends up there's an unstable wormhole there, which I appreciate. I actually like when they do wormhole stuff because it kind of ties into the whole Star Trek Deep Space Nine and the like, and some of the lore there. And ends up on the other side of the galaxy where she's trapped in this strange planet sort of thing with a Gorn. And so this has been the thing of all of the Star Treks and Strange New Worlds so far that's been a problem. The Gorn situation, the hey, we're a prequel, and gosh, this doesn't quite line up with the original series in a lot of ways situations. It's really kind of a bummer that they do this. And they kind of tried to explain it in this episode, and it also ruins it. So please hit the like, subscribe button, and join us. I'm a science fiction writer myself. If you like my thoughts on Strange New Worlds and Star Trek and the like, I'm coming out with a space exploration series very, very soon. Sign up for my newsletter. You get 3 free books for doing so: a sci-fi book, a fantasy book, and a full superhero graphic novel. Great value, like $50 worth of books, absolutely for free, because I want to stay in touch with you. Never know if I'm going to find you again on YouTube. That's kind of how things work. Even if you subscribe, they don't show you subscriptions anymore. I don't know if you know how it all works. I'm not going to bore you with the details, but do get on here. It's so important to stay connected with me, my friends, and thank you for being here, and thank you for, of course, supporting our books over the years. I do have my Amazon store in the description below as well. If you like Star Trek, I'd start with my book, The Stars Entwined, and thanks for reading. All right, so this is Terrarium, and as I said, that's kind of the setup of things with the Ortega. She's at the helm and ends up crash landing on a planet with some Gorn. She ends up having to do a survival thing, which they really rush a survival thing. She keeps talking about how hungry she is and how she needs to find food, but it doesn't feel like she's been gone more than a few hours. So it's like, did she not, have a meal before she left? A lot of modernisms thrown into this too, which is just kind of throws you out of it. She's like, she does some things in this, which I attribute to just poor dialogue writing, where she says, "I need to find some snacks." It's like you're a military officer. Why are you talking like that? Like you're a teenage girl, right? Doesn't work. And there's a later one where she talks to herself throughout the whole episode to make it less boring because she's by herself. Kind of rough on that level because you're sitting there going, wow, this person's kind of insane, talking to themselves after a couple of hours. Does another modernism that's a cliche as she's walking through there. She's like, go on a mission, they said. It'll be fun, they said. It's like they seriously put that into the episode. Painful. Some of the dialogue, like I said, really, really painful. And so she eventually goes off, finds a Gorn, and it turns out the Gorn is happy to help her survive and the like. It's kind of weird and doesn't make sense given the context of the Gorn. And she's scared, but the Gorn helps her get food. And then they kind of wait for rescue, and then she kind of sends up this super duper flare because she's super duper science-y in the whole thing. And there's a problem for me in the way that all of New Trek does things. This is Discovery, Picard, Strange New Worlds. There was a level of believability to the technobabble of the Next Generation through Voyager, where they'd come up with a problem, it would, I mean, it's silly. It's all silly, really, when it comes down to it. It's like we can modulate the deflector shields to emit an EM pulse, and yes, and then flood it with theta radiation, and that will solve the crisis. Yes, and they're just words, right? That don't really make sense. And but they did make some semblance of sense, and they actually did feel like they worked on a problem for like a single problem for a whole episode, failing, trying, like real engineering, and then they'd like come up with a solution and actually work it, and that felt pretty good. Now in these new Star Trek episodes, like it's like, oh, science-y stuff, cool, and then it's like she takes apart the shuttle within 5 minutes and then makes herself a water condenser to just get water out of the atmosphere, just out of spare parts, and it's like, you're not even an engineer, you're a pilot. So how do you know how to do that? Now, it would make more sense, and you don't need to do that. You could just have the shuttle come with a water condenser in it in case somebody gets stranded, and mention that's part of Starfleet protocol. That would make a lot more sense. Or, like, setting up the atmosphere is very flammable, so she sets the entire atmosphere on fire to get the attention. Why doesn't the shuttlecraft just have, like, some sort of beacon or flare she can just set off? Like, I mean, again, they make these, like, things where it's like they have to do a very melodramatic moment where it does the technobabble science-y stuff, and it's way over the top to the point where it's like it kills suspension of disbelief. It's like a person could not come up with this fast and wouldn't just immediately know how to do this fast. It's just painful. And that it just throws you out of the Star Trek because, again, the older series used to be kind of plausible in the way that they handled things. None of this feels plausible anymore. And, there's so much on it that's like there's that sort of jargon and technobabble that doesn't really, like, magically hand wave just all these amazing things constantly. Not only that, but I mentioned the hair and stuff like that. You're looking at people who don't feel like they're in some sort of military operation, don't feel like they're professionals. They feel like it's theater kids pretending to be professionals, and that's the way they designed the look of this. It feels like parody Star Trek, and that's the whole problem with everything. Now, this is just like a lot of nitpicking right now. This was actually a pretty good episode, as all things go, from just a start to finish, from a plot to what was going on to the excitement levels to like watching it and actually feeling like you're on a Star Trek, like they're a person going through a wormhole, getting trapped, getting stuck with an enemy, and learning about the enemy feels very Star Trek. This was not one of those episodes like the musical episode where they're obviously trying to do a musical but Star Trek, or the documentary episode where it's like, oh, we're not actually doing the mission, we're just doing a documentary style episode. Like those ones were painful to watch because it's like, why are you wasting so many episodes not doing Star Trek? This one actually felt like a Star Trek, as much as I opened with the nitpicks. And I'm going to close with an even worse nitpick from a continuity perspective, where it's just like, this is painful for what they're doing, and it's like comic book style level retconning, which I don't like to do with continuity. But like I said, at the same time, the basic plot of this, the basic thing that was with it, felt like an actual Star Trek episode for the first time. I think maybe there's one or two other episodes this season, maybe, that actually felt like a real Star Trek episode. But this one really did. And, eventually the Enterprise rescues her, gets her off the deal. And pretty poignant moment because Ortega, like, is coming to understand the Gorn at this point. But when the security team shows up, they shoot the Gorn on sight because they know exactly how dangerous it is. And there it is. And then it gets to the big reveal that... Ortega sees these weird stars in the sky the whole episode, alluding to something else being there. And this is where it gets kind of weird. Now, when this all happens, there's a point where she starts shouting at the sky, like, if you're out there, like she's shouting at God. And then they freeze time. And it turns out it's one of the Metrons from Arena who they went originally. This is where they went into the space with the Gorn, and the Metrons set Captain Kirk against the Gorn captain to resolve their dispute because they are they're like, you're barbarous beings and you're fighting in our space, so we're just going to resolve this way, and then that's going to be the end of that. And they were very opposed to fighting. They were opposed to all this stuff, and they were annoyed with these sub-lesser beings. Well, now they've changed. Now they're just curious explorers. And from the looks of things, by curious explorers, because this is a weird thing. This is a dude they put with like a female voice modulator. It was very, very gender bendy, weird, and didn't fit right with the voice here and the way that this looked. And also doesn't, it's like, why change the look so much? Like, why is it some weird bald person rather than this like sort of like Greek god-looking person? Why didn't they keep it the same? Because they just have to do this sort of thing, right? And this is kind of obnoxious. Now, this person explains that like they were watching this situation because they're curious, and they made them kind of crash that way on purpose just to see what their two species interactions would be as like a science experiment. And again, this is a continuity change because it's like, now they've met the Metrons before, now they've met the Gorn before, and this is how they explain it away. I'm going to erase your memory of this incident, and we might even erase all your memories of your species of all the Gorn just to do this experiment further. So they do a throwaway line in it, basically implying that all the memory of all these people getting killed, all these things happening, is about to just get wiped away, erased from all the memory banks and people's memories and the like, just so they can do this experiment with the Gorn in Arena later. Now, there's too much damage, there's too much destruction wrought upon the Federation for this to make any sense whatsoever. If these guys are this hand-wavium powerful beings that could just really reset all of history and all that, it's like, oh, this is painful. And it just invalidates all the continuity that comes before. It does explain it because, here's the deal. The big complaint about Strange New Worlds was the Gorn continuity violations. It's a big problem, and they love it. They love to skirt these like continuity things. Noonien Singh, the security officer. Oh yeah, not going to remember that either. Okay, how's that? Are they going to hand wave that with the Metrons as well? My gosh, or like, the Romulan incident right before the other Romulan incident where they were a mystery. It's like, well, they're not that much of a mystery now. Okay. Why is Captain Kirk on the starship all the time? But, all these things are just like, why did Nurse Chapel say she showed up recently, like in the original series, and she's been on the ship for like 10 years? Like, it doesn't make any sense. There's a lot of continuity problems, and people see this, and it's like, this is the problem with a prequel in general. One, it causes these problems. Two, it seems like they do this intentionally. Like, they get in our faces intentionally with the continuity stuff. Like, it's like, I want to reference Trelane this week. And it's like, why did you do that? Why didn't you just invent your own thing rather than try for the member berries and then fail with it? Well, this is a bad way to set up continuity. It kind of does ruin things for things. And as much as, like, honestly, this was the best episode of the third season, low bar, it was pretty good. It was Star Trek. I liked Ortega acting, and she did a pretty good job on everything. It just messed with continuity too much, and it's bothersome as a Star Trek fan. All right, leave a comment down below of what you think about this. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and check out my newsletter, guys. Get on here if you like my thoughts on writing. You're going to enjoy my books, and I hope you'll be around for my new space exploration series, which will be coming out hopefully pretty soon here. Check it out. It's in the description below. So are my Amazon links. Appreciate you being here. We'll be back soon.